Treasure Hunt was a popular UK game show, based on the format of the French show La Chasse or Trésor copyright Saw, created by Jacques Antoine. It appeared on Channel 4 between 28 December 1982 and 18 May 1989 and was revived by BBC Two between December 16, 2002 and August 2, 2003. The game, a team of 2 contestants, always in the studio, had to use a library of maps and reference materials to solve up to 5 clues, and communicate instructions via a radio link to a skirunner who had the use of a helicopter. The contestants were given the first clue for free, the solving of which would lead to the location of the second clue and so on until a trinket or other significant object was found by solving the final clue. The contestants won a higher cash prize each time they solved a clue correctly. This was all done against the clock. Even once the contestants had solved the final clue, the skirunners still had to confirm they were correct, by reaching the final target. On a few occasions, the contestants solved all 5 clues with time to spare, in which case, a bonus clue was given to the contestants. This typically resulted in their winning a bottle of champagne. One such occasion was the North Yorkshire episode, in which the bonus clue instructed them to go to Great British Hospital X-ray unit. This was actually code for return to the helicopter, registration GBHXU, but Anker alarmed the passers-by outside Skipton Castle by frantically asking, which way to the hospital? Understandably, the skirunner and helicopter did not have freedom to fly and land anywhere they wished. Although the pilot could to an extent request permission from airspace authorities to fly off course, as happened on occasions, landings needed to be agreed in advance with landowners of a suitable location near the clue. On occasions the helicopter would land in a clearly marked out area, especially at public places. It is opening to interpretation how much detail of the route was known in advance by either of the studio presenters or even the skirunner herself, and hence to what extent the contestants were helped to correctly direct the skirunner to the approximate location. Kenneth Kendall always stressed that he did not know the clues and locations in advance, and any help that he gave the contestants was from his own knowledge. According to a Making of Treasure Hunt program, Anker Rice was confined to the hotel on the day that the cameraman, video recordist and helicopter pilot undertook a rehearsal, so she had no advance knowledge of the locations. This did not stop her carrying out research about the general area in order to have a stock of interesting facts to fill in any awkward silences that might arise while the contestants were thinking. Presenters and crew. In the original version, the presenter was former BBC News reader Kenneth Kendall and the skirunner was broadcaster Anker Rice. In the first series, Kenneth was joined briefly in the studio for the handover of the first clue by the original clue setter, Anne Meo. She would later rejoin the contestants if they had been successful in finding the treasure to offer her congratulations. If they had been unsuccessful, she would be heard as a voiceover explaining where they had gone wrong. From the second series onwards, this role was expanded. Another studio-based person acted as adjudicator, giving the contestants tips on how they were doing against the scheduled time, and providing additional information about the locations visited. In Series 2, this was Annette Linton and from Series 3 onwards, TVM weather girl Winchie Willis. In 1988, Rice left to have a baby, and her place was taken by tennis player Annabel Croft. In the series, the set was revamped due to a move to Thames Television's facilities, and Willis was promoted to sharing main billing with Kendall. Croft was billed as guest skirunner for the first episode of the series, and it was stated at the time that Rice would return after giving birth, but it turned out to be the show's final series and the guest skirunner credit was dropped. In the BBC's 2002-2003 version, newsreader Dermot Murnaghan presented, the skirunner was Susie Perry, and there was no adjudicator. Advances in broadcasting technology meant that this new version could come from a much greater range of locations. However, the new version was quite short-lived. It is thought that the BBC felt the moderate ratings did not justify the budget required for the show. Keith Thompson of Castle Air Charters was the usual helicopter pilot in both versions, though for overseas editions a local pilot was often used. There was always a chase helicopter which relayed radio signals back to London and, Although this could never be used tactically by the contestants, it was not hidden from the viewers. This communications helicopter had dark brown with gold stripe livery, registration G-SPAY. The two crews would sometimes fly in formation to generate exciting footage. Both helicopters were usually Bell 206 Jet Rangers. The helicopter usually used by the skirunner was registration GBHXU. This aircraft was later forced to ditch in the sea north of Alderney in June 1995 where it sank. The crew were rescued. A feature was made of the camaraderie between the female presenter and the male recording and flight crews. This extended to many infamous shots of the presenter's rear as she ran from clue to clue in a jumpsuit, which became the main focus of the program's portrayal in the satirical TV series, Spitting Image. Cameraman Graham reaching in front of the camera to wipe away rain, sea spray, etc. with a cloth also became a well-known image from the series. In 1985, the cameraman, Graham Berry, was awarded a BAFTA for his contribution to the series. Broadcasts. When first shown on Channel 4 on December 28, 1982, Treasure Hunt was one of the earliest major series on the then-new channel. The unusual format earned extra publicity for both the program and the channel, which was striving to justify itself with new and different programming. The 1982–1989 series were repeated on terrestrial television several times, and during the 1990s appeared on the Challenge satellite and cable channel, as well as Sky Travel. The first episode was repeated on October 30, 2007 on the digital channel More 4 as part of Channel 4's 25th anniversary celebrations. This was a one-off and there are no current plans to repeat the TV show. On November 21, 2013, Challenge announced that they reacquired the first two series. The first episode was repeated again on December 28, 2013 as part of Challenge's first ever episodes weekend. Challenge have confirmed that the rerun of Series 1 and 2 would air on Saturdays and Sundays from February 8, 2014. The Saturday episode was screened at 6 p.m. and the Sunday episode aired at 5 p.m. The original run of the first series was watched by up to 900,000 viewers. However, by the mid-1980s, ratings were some of the highest for Channel 4 at around 7 million. Two charity editions of the show were produced, one locally in the London area for the Thames Television Telethon in 1985 and another broadcast across the UK as part of the ITV Network's Telethon 88. The show was also featured in an edition of the BBC children's aspiration show Jimmy'll Fix It, in the Paul Daniels Magic Show and in the Krypton Factor. For all the UK series, the programme was a Chatsworth Television independent production in association with Teal Union Paris. Spin-offs. An eponymous board game based on the show was published in the UK. It involved moving pieces around a map of England and Wales. There was also a computer game released for some home computer formats in 1986, including for the BBC Micro, published by Maxim Software. This game featured very basic graphic layout and was text-driven, and had the options of 4 different locations to find clues in. A one-off Welsh-language version, Helford Racer, was produced for S4C in 1985. In 1989, Rice began her own BBC series, Challenge Anchor, in which she was set a different task to complete each week. Although essentially unrelated to the original concept of Treasure Hunt, there were some similarities between the shows, primarily the principles of Rice being up against a time limit, racing from location to location and having a real chance of success or failure to complete a task with the aid of others. BBC Three Counties Radio aired Treasure Quest each Sunday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Andy Gelder was in the studio and varying assistants in the radio car helped 2 contestants to solve clues over the 3-hour period. This format was later changed to a Saturday morning hosted by Jonathan Vernon Smith. The new format is somewhat confusing as the programme is shared with BBC Radio Northampton and there are 2 runners running simultaneously in the 2 radio areas during the same programme. BBC Radio Norfolk began their own version of Treasure Quest in 2008, on Sunday mornings from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with David Clayton presenting and Kirstine Thorne and Sophie Little doing alternate weeks in the radio car with navigator Ian Forster. Over the years there have been several different guest runners, presenters and navigators when the regular team are unavailable. These are normally presenters or staff from Radio Norfolk or BBC Look East. However, on September 6, 2009, Wynchy Willis stood in for the then full-time runner Becky Betts, and on Valentine's Day, February 14, 2010, Anchor Rice took part in the programme, appearing at the Fifth Clue location, Norwich Castle, and then teaming up with Betts to find the treasure. On London's talk station LBC, presenter James O'Brien hosted the treasure hunt on Wednesday lunchtimes as part of his weekday show. In this format, callers rang in and requested things they had been trying to get hold of, hoping that other listeners had the required items. Although otherwise unrelated to the original concept, the program opened with the Treasure Hunt television series theme tune, and in August 2007, Anchor Rice recorded a voiceover lead-in for it. Transmissions = original series = revived series = specials = list of episodes = 1982 a Euro 1989 version = 2002 a Euro 2003 version = References. External links: Anchor Rice, episode guide a Euro with exhaustive location, clue and crew listings plus helicopter registration letters, treasure hunt at igamshows.com, off the telly article.